The year is 1944, and the Allies are only slowly progressing towards their goal of freeing Europe from the Axis powers on the battlefield. Both in the East and in the West, there is a concerted effort to aid the Allied war by sabotaging the German war machinery.
In France alone this year, 1,500 trains will be derailed by the resistance. The partisans in the occupied Soviet Union are destroying dozens of rail lines every month. Across factories in the Nazi occupation, machines suddenly stop working, tools break, and materials goes missing.
These are not spontaneous acts, but part of a planned and organized effort by the Allied Secret Services. For that, the American OSS under Wild Bill Donovan has printed and distributed a small yet deadly book, the Simple Sabotage Field Manual.
This book only has one purpose: to dismantle the Nazi regime
From within. I'm Astrid Deinhard. Hello, darlings. Welcome to a special legacy episode of Spies and Ties. Today's episode is the first writing work of our dear intern, Clara. There she is. So, we return to 1944, and this book that was used to teach anyone, regardless of skill sets and experience, how to sabotage the Nazis.
Indeed. And I'm Anna Deinhard. Let us begin.
Wait, before getting into the nitty-gritty of sabotage, where does that word come from? Do you know?
Well, I thought that we're here to learn about historical stuff and not linguistic stuff. So who cares?
I thought we were here to learn fun stuff, and this is fun. So, listen up, my daughter. The word sabotage stems from the French word sabot, which translated means clock. This clock is said to have been thrown into machines by French anarchist workers during the Industrial Revolution to break them. The French anarchists then started using this clock, or sabot, as their symbol in the fight towards an 8-hour working day.
Okay, but back to our book. It's a top-secret training manual for OSS field agents coordinating and/or seeding civilian sabotage.
And guess what? We got our hands on that classified booklet with everything you need to know to become tomorrow's saboteur. Das kleine Sabotagehandbuch von 1944, die besten Tricks des amerikanischen Geheimdienstes im Kampf gegen Hitler.
Well, that was very nice. Thank you a lot. But they do not speak the German language.
Well, some of them do, right?
Well, but for everyone included, that isn't like German. What she means is the Simple Sabotage Field Manual from 1944. The best tricks from the American Secret Services in the fight against Hitler.
Yeah, that's the American version.
We have to. So.
This is what Wild Bill wants to achieve.
The purpose of this paper is to characterize simple sabotage, to outline its possible effects, and to present suggestions for inciting and executing it. Acts of simple sabotage are occurring throughout Europe. An effort should be made to add to their efficiency, lessen their detectability, and increase their number. Acts of simple sabotage, multiplied by thousands of citizen saboteurs, can be an effective weapon against the enemy.
The paper describes the challenges the training officers will face.
Simple sabotage is often an act which the citizen performs according to his own initiative and inclination. Acts of destruction do not bring him any personal gain and may be completely foreign to his habitually conservationist attitude towards materials and tools. Purposeful stupidity is contrary to human nature. He frequently needs pressure, stimulation, or assurances, and information and suggestions regarding feasible methods of simple sabotage.
Okay, but let's get into the fun bit. The practical suggestions for how to break stuff. Yes.
The little book focuses on things that anyone can get their hands on, like wheat, rice, candles, and string. Common harmless household items. But to a saboteur, those items can easily become weapons of destruction.
Yeah. That's right. The focus of the handbook is to train regular civilians working in factories, also known as simple saboteurs or citizen saboteurs, and they shall be helped to get away with their acts, live another day to sabotage again. One of the ground rules of sabotage is that it can only be good when there is no risk of being injured, being detected, or worse, being punished.
Sure, but getting started on sabotage is pretty much like shooting fish in a barrel. Or, like falling off a log. For instance, uncooperative behavior towards coworkers, deliberate accidents at the workplace, slowing down administrative work, overcomplicating bureaucracy, or just plain misconduct are considered acts of sabotage and are enough to slow down the enemy's production of ammunition, rubber, or whatever else they are producing.
Sabotage varies from highly technical coup de main acts that require detailed planning and the use of specially trained operatives to innumerable simple acts which the ordinary individual citizen saboteur can perform.
The ultimate goal of sabotage is to waste the enemy's time, material, and, of course, working power. For example, one act of sabotage could be clogging the sewage system. You know, just with something like a hard sponge, inevitably flooding sections of a building after working hours. Simple.
But how do you get away with something like that? Well, one of the reasons why behaving like a klutz and breaking things didn't immediately alert anyone was because of how common it was for drafted workers to lack specific skills they needed for the job they were drafted into.
Yeah. At the same time, many faulty products came from slave labor at concentration camps, right? Weapons, ammunition, aircraft parts, vehicle parts, etc. So sabotage and accidents, due to lack of skills, nutrition, and rest, are not easy to tell apart, right?
That is very correct. And due to the secret nature of sabotage, there are no exact documented numbers that can showcase just how high the rates of acts of sabotage actually was.
Now, while most sabotage acts seem harmless, they collectively torment and demoralize the police force and government agencies over a longer period of time. Yet, the question remains, how do regular civilians working in factories to support the war turn into saboteurs working at the hand of the enemy?
The ordinary citizen very probably has no immediate personal motive for committing simple sabotage. Instead, he must be made to anticipate indirect personal gain. Gains should be stated as specifically as possible for the area addressed.
As easy as that, the answer is finding them personal motivation to introduce them to the advantages they will receive once the Nazi regime falls.
Or, if they are in a higher position of power, they can obviously also be promised more food rations, more freedoms and privileges that other workers will not share, and so on.
Nevertheless, the easiest motivation for sabotage, unsurprisingly, is witnessing a successful act of sabotage through other people, but also through oneself. Who would have thought a sense of community could go that far?
We did it.
Jawohl!
And for the few potential saboteurs who needed more than success to motivate themselves, there is always the excuse, motivation, that they are acting in self-defense against the Nazis.
And I would like to quote myself here. It's all about the right mindset and the right delusions at the right time.
There you go.
Very good quote, Anna, you did good. The saboteurs in this case are encouraged to have the same mindset. Anything can be sabotaged.
Really?
Yes, anything.
Okay. Anyhow, you're right. through false and true leaflets. Wide radio, also called freedom stations, information and suggestions about sabotage is spread and made accessible.
The saboteur may have to reverse his thinking, and he should be told this in so many words. Where he formerly thought of keeping his tools sharp, he should now let them grow dull. Surfaces that were formerly lubricated now should be sanded. Once he is encouraged to think backwards about himself and the objects of his everyday life, the saboteur will see many opportunities in his immediate environment which cannot possibly be seen from a distance.
The simple saboteurs additionally have to follow certain guidelines and core rules to remain undetected. For instance, if too many saboteurs are arrested within a short time frame, the undetected ones are discouraged from further acts of sabotaging for the time being. Sounds logic.
Right. However, the acts of sabotage and the total number of acts also greatly depend on the opportunities that the saboteur stumbles upon and on the tools that they have on hand in the given moment that an opportunity arises. To ensure that the simple saboteurs remain unnoticed, their choices of weapons are rather, shall I say, alternative?
Small knives, multi-purpose tools, matches, pebbles, salt, and even
whatever
hair.
they have.
Yeah. It all can be used for various things such as breaking machines, vehicles, or one of my personal favorites, burning down factories and warehouses.
Would you have been a saboteur?
Yes, I would love to be a saboteur.
But also wrenches, hammers, sandpapers can be tools a saboteur carries depending on the field they work in. The ground rule is that weapons must be carried without drawing any attention to the saboteur.
Another important core rule is that the acts of sabotage must occur on items and in places that cannot be tracked back to only one person. For example, blowing out the wiring of a fuse box or slashing the tires of a military truck in the dead of night. Who's to say who done it?
Who did it? It wasn't me.
It was me!
It wasn't me. However, it must be said that some saboteurs have the guts to sabotage machines or other things that are able to be tracked right back to them. And when they do, they have to come up with a plausible excuse to cover for their mistakes. And how do they do that?
The OSS rather cynically suggests sleep deprivation due to air raids, hunger to undernourishment, or even nerves due to anxiety of being suspected of sabotage as viable cover stories.
To sell a cover story convincingly, the key is to always apologize profoundly for the caused trouble. And when all else fails, never underestimate the power of just plain dumb.
Ah, yeah, I know that one very well.
Oh,
yeah.
Did I do this? I'm sorry.
Oh, I didn't know. Who would have guessed? No,
so
I would
sorry.
never. Okay, now that we have covered all the ground rules and do's and don'ts for sabotage, it's time for the actual fun part.
Terror and destruction. After creatively collecting the materials needed for the act of sabotage and ensuring that the target is A, something the enemy soon or already needs on the front lines, such as fuel or lubricants, as well as B, something that is on the right level of difficulty to sabotage. It is time to jump right into the act.
And although most saboteurs do not have any access to military equipment such as uniforms, vehicles, infrastructure, weapons, blah blah blah, if the opportunity arises, the highest stake is always to sabotage those objects first.
Prior to a military offensive, the focus of most sabotage should be the industrial production. While slashing a tire is an effective act of sabotage for a citizen saboteur, spoiling a whole batch of rubber would be sublime for a working saboteur in the factory.
However, during a military offensive, the targets for sabotage could be transportation facilities. This means trains, cars, motorcycles, train tracks, or roads, basically.
Yeah. Another attractive target are communication facilities that authorities use to transmit any form of data or information. Think of telegraphs, telephones, or even newspapers.
For those unable to get near any of those objects are simpler methods to discombobulate the military forces. Spoiling critical materials is the most accessible and simple way to stir up trouble. For example, pouring half a liter of urine into a gas tank when nobody is looking will break down any vehicle.
Urine. May I ask where you acquire half a liter of urine while nobody is looking?
Well, actually, no, you may not. Alternatively, you could also use wine, but why? Waste a good thing.
Yeah, why? Okay.
But why?
Anyway, in conclusion, the OSS handbook is a lot of common sense, and perhaps its main purpose and effect was to plant the seeds of desire to sabotage. It's a clever trick, as it feeds right into the mischievous nature. Thank you. We all have within us our inner little child that likes to break things just because we can. Yes, I love breaking stuff.
While both the specific effects of the handbook and the exact numbers of sabotage acts will forever be unknown, most historians agree that sabotage had a meaningful effect on the Allied war effort. It may not have won the war, but it saved lives by disabling the Nazi war and possibly even contributed to a faster victory.
I'm sure of that. It reminds us, when faced with an aggressor, a maker of evil empires, every effort counts. And you should resist.
We will be back to cover more refreshing espionage stories in our new Cold War series, War to War, on the Timeghost channel. So if you haven't already, subscribe both to this channel and to the Timeghost channel. And do consider becoming an agent of the Timeghost army by joining us at timeghost.tv or patreon.com. It is the army that keeps our efforts to sabotage ignorance and stupidity by continuing to create videos like this.
That's right. So, see you next time, darlings.
Viva la Revolution!